I think almost nobody should be a founder.
So why do you think you can pull this off? What's your relationship with your co-founder? You guys friends or?
We hate each other.
Okay, that's good. I think you got to have that competition.
No, we met because I hired him. Our previous startup, I had started it as a solo founder. I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
And so I was working with a freelance developer, and it was just getting too expensive to keep paying a freelance developer. And so I went on the hunt for a co-founder who could take over the dev role. And we had a product that was built, it mostly worked. We had customers. There was a little bit of revenue. Mm-hmm. And so it was a little bit easier to go look for a co-founder. You know, I wasn't trying to find someone to say, hey, build my idea for me.
Yeah.
So I went and tried to find people and just kept striking out. I talked to friends. I talked to friends of friends. However many ways people try to find co-founders. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm just going to list a job on LinkedIn. Because I think LinkedIn gives you like one free job listing or something.
Oh, really?
So I used my one free job listing. And I put in there that I was looking to hire someone for a project. Like it was a project based. And they needed to develop on Bubble, which is what that business was built on. Mm-hmm. They had to be located in Utah. And within like a day, there was like 500 applications. Filtered out all the non-Utah ones, non-Mountain West ones, and had like a legitimate like 20 people who had applied that fit the criteria. Went through each of them, narrowed it down to like 3 people who I thought, okay, like I can actually do a project with these people. So I reached out to all 3 of them. All 3 of them agreed to do a project. And I told them on that first call, I was like, look, I'm looking for a co-founder. So this is a project. This is paid. I'm not looking for free work here. But if it goes well, if you're interested, let's talk about joining the team.
If it goes well and you don't hate me, you want to start a company?
Yeah. And of the 3, 2 of them agreed to do it. And Ben was great, and we just worked really well together. Our personalities meshed really well, and he did a really good job on the project. And so after we finished, and it was like a $500 project. It wasn't like this was, someone was making a bunch of money, but he was getting paid. And I told him, like, look, I told you ahead of time, I am looking for a co-founder. Here's my personality. Here's all my quirks. Here's the reason some people maybe wouldn't like to work with me. And he was like, I'm fine with that. He's like super easygoing. He's like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. We chatted about it for a little bit, told him to go talk with his wife and decide if that's something they wanted to jump into. Met up for lunch, talked through it, and then extended an offer of like, would you like to be my co-founder? Will you come join me? That was like 8 months in after I had launched that first startup.
And this was Whelm?
It was Whelm.
Okay.
So he joined 8 months in. We continued to run it together for another year. And during that year, it became evident Whelm was never going to pay us anything. I think it can, like the right kind of team, Whelm would work, but we weren't the guys for that.
Yeah.
And so during that process, we started building Mallow, which really fits our strengths a lot better. And, after having a year of working together, we knew how to work even better together. So started building Mallow, sold off Whelm, and we stuck together to build Mallow together. So
yeah, I think it's fun. Just thinking about the idea of like all the great ideas that are had by people who are idea people, but not so much like the operator people, or just not yet ready. Like I never like to say like, oh, you're not the person who can do this. Like, well, you're just not there right now. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think about all the conversations I've had with friends of like, and I don't drink, but like, I wonder how many conversations have been had in bars where it's like, you know what we should do? Or like, it'd be a great business. What if we did this? And everyone just like hanging out and like shooting the breeze, talking ideas, but they never really execute on it because they don't know how.
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, that'd be a killer idea.
And it's fun to dream, but
Yeah.
it's really not that fun to build a business. It's way more fun to think about how awesome it would be than it is to actually go through the slog required to make it awesome.
Yeah.
And eventually it becomes really fun. But there's a certain subset of people in the world who actually enjoy that slog.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm maybe a little bit the opposite of you in this way I think almost nobody should be a founder. If friends approach me and say, I've got this really great idea.
Yeah.
My advice is usually cool idea. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And if they still do it, like, okay, then I'm not going to deter you.
Mm-hmm.
So go do it. And I'll help. I'll be there to cheer you on and support and help however I can.
Yeah.
But if it's just an idea, the best service I can give you is to say, don't do it. And if you're easily dissuaded, then you shouldn't be a founder.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's like I've talked to several people now just like about this podcast and they're like, oh, I want to start a podcast too. Or like, oh, I'm right about to launch my podcast. And I'm like, hey, I don't know much, but like, if you want to talk podcast stuff, any resources I've got or something you've got, like, I'm happy to chat. And people, I'm thinking of one person specifically who like I was recently chatting with on LinkedIn and they're like, oh, well, I don't expect it to turn into anything big. I don't know how long I'll do it. I'm like, oh, well then why are you doing it?
yeah. You just want to waste time? Or
Yeah.
if it's just a hobby, that's fine too.
Well, I mean, he said like, oh, it'd be really cool to turn it into a business. I'm like, well, then turn it into a business.
Yeah. So take it seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I'll still, I'll chat with him,
Yeah.
but unless something changes in him, like I know it's not going to go anywhere.
Yep.
He might do 6 episodes and say, wow, this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Like me.
Yeah.
I got 7 episodes
7.
in and never even edited them. Just recorded them and they're stashed away on a folder in my computer somewhere.
Yeah. Well, these days there's AI that will do the editing
That's
for
true.
you. And so if you just want it for a memory, then you can just plug it into the AI.
That's true. My wife has listened to the unedited episodes and she's like, this is my favorite podcast because it's about her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the most it will ever be.
Yeah. Once I bought these mics actually, and the cameras and everything, I did a little like test podcast.
Yeah.
Where I just interviewed my wife and asked her about her childhood vacations. And I,
Nice.
I can't bring myself to like delete that footage. So it's still on, an SSD.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, well, I'm not going to do anything with this. But now we have this, little moment.
Yeah.
Of like my first podcast episode that I'm not going to publish anywhere.
I don't know if this is like morbid, but oftentimes those kinds of things where it's like, I'm never going to publish this into the world.
Mm-hmm.
But heaven forbid, if my wife were to die, that would become a cherished memory. Like I would die before letting that get deleted. Yeah. Right. So like I think of those things and I try not to be morbid about it. I try to think of it as like, oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. No, this is not what I was planning on bringing up today, but as I was like checking SD cards and like, smaller SD card with the audio on it over there, that small little SD card was in a GoPro at one point that I strapped to my daughter's chest and she ran around, upstairs and said, take this off of me. And it's like 2 minutes of this footage of, just toddler's perspective running around the house with her little voice. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I can't delete that either. Yeah. I've got to put that on some drive to keep forever.
It's got to be somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting back to the reason why I have you here.
It wasn't this.
Well, we could get real sentimental if we want to. Real quick. I am just like on opposite sides of the spectrum all the time of like work my life away. I need to work every second of every day to build something cool with this podcast. And also, I just want to be outside. I just want to spend time with my family. I don't want to work at anything. I don't want to go back to my job after paternity leave is over. I just want to like be outside in God's creation and enjoy my time with my family and like never work on anything again. Yeah. And I don't go anywhere else in between that spectrum. I'm just here and over here, and that's all I do. So it's hard for me to subscribe to like all the hustle culture mindset stuff that you see online, even though that's what I spout off sometimes. But in my heart, I know that I just want to be outside. Yeah,
I feel that.
But anyway, the reason I have you here, Chipper, I want to hear about the company that you're building right now. You're wearing the t-shirt for Mallow. We started off talking about you and your co-founder, Ben. What is Mallow? What's the problem you're solving? You have this startup that you're bootstrapping between you and Ben, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so what problem are the two of you solving here?
High payment fees. That's kind of what it comes down to.
And who's paying those?
Merchants. Specifically, we work mostly with marketing agencies.
Okay.
So a lot of agencies are billing their customers with Stripe or QuickBooks, and it's a great way to start. It gets you off the ground. But at a certain amount of revenue, those fees from payment processing really start to eat into your business. If you're processing 50 grand a month, you're paying a few $1,000s in processing fees that you could otherwise be, as the agency owner, you could be taking that home, or you could use that to hire another employee or whatever you need to do with the money. Just increase your margin. But it's going to Stripe or QuickBooks or Square or PayPal or whatever system you're using. So what we're doing is we're giving you an option to continue billing your customers in a professional and customized platform that looks and feels clean, but with way lower payment processing fees. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the benefit.
So very simply put, let's say I'm a marketing agency and I have 50 grand of revenue that I'm billing every month. I would be trading these higher processing fees for just a lower percentage rate, or like, what's your take on like pricing structures?
Yeah, we charge a SaaS fee to have access to our software. That's how we make money. Whereas, Stripe, they make money on all of your payments. What we're doing is essentially forfeiting our margin on your payments, so that you keep it. You make more of what is yours, and you pay us a low monthly fee to get access to those lower rates.
Yeah.
So if it's if they're receiving a payment from a credit card, whatever that fee is for us to process your credit card, we'll just pass that on to you. So you're getting the lowest possible fee. If it's a bank transfer, someone's paying with an ACH, then we just charge a flat $2 fee, whether they're getting paid $1,000 or $150,000. The fee doesn't go up. It's just flat $2. So compare that to QuickBooks. QuickBooks charges 1% on ACH.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, well, what's the competition charging?
Yeah, they're around 3% for cards as a baseline minimum. Companies like Stripe, they add on extra fees depending on if it's a subscription or if you're using their invoice builder or if you're doing any cross-border transactions and there's foreign exchange involved. Lots of ticky-tack fees that they add on. So your baseline is 2.9% with Stripe. A lot of companies are paying a lot more than 2.9%. With QuickBooks, they're a little more stable. It's just 2.99%, so basically 3% for any card for them to process. Compare that to our card processing. The average card is like less than 2.3%. Sometimes way lower, sometimes less than 0.5%.
Right. What a lot of people don't understand about averages is that if the average is 2.3%, that means sometimes it's 0.2%.
Right.
I mean, I don't know the very lowest, but like that's how an average works.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little more.
Sometimes it's up at the same level as Stripe, 2.9. Right. So it does vary, but on average, you're going to get a lower fee. And that's really easy to calculate. If you're doing 50 grand in revenue, here's what it would be with Stripe. Here's what it would be on average with Mallow. That delta is your savings that you're taking back home every month. You're paying us $100, but you're saving $1,000.
Yeah.
Great. That's a win-win.
That's a great trade.
We know what we're going to make. You know what you're going to save. You're paying $100 to get $1,000 back.
Yeah.
That's just printing money.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. If you could go to like a restaurant or something and they're like, oh, we have this item on the menu and it's $100, but we bring 1,000 and give it to you at the table.
Yeah.
Be like, could I get 2 of them?
Can I buy all of them?
Yeah. Like, how many do you have in stock?
I'll take out a loan to buy them all.
Yeah. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. What's the inception of this idea? Did Christopher Nolan send someone to plant this into your head, or who came up with this?
It was a late night dream within a dream, and Christopher Nolan walked up to me. He was white robed.
Oh, perfect. Did he have a beard?
He had a beard and his hair was very long.
That's unlike Christopher Nolan.
It was born out of our previous company, Whelm. Whelm had some similar tools and a lot of other tools. Probably too many tools. That was part of the problem with it, is we built too much.
Yeah.
Without solving real problems. But it was built for freelancers. That's the target market that we were going for. And we had multiple marketing agencies ask us for an agency tier of Whelm, because it was built for freelancers. It was not a good system for agencies. So they wanted a tier built just for them. The way that Whelm was built, it would have been really hard to build out a different version of it for agencies. And it also would have split our go-to-market strategy in half, because selling to freelancers is a lot like selling to consumers, and selling to agencies is literally B2B sales.
That's literally B2B.
Yeah. So totally different playbooks, right? And in fact, selling to freelancers, like, there is no playbook. They behave kind of like consumers, but they're technically businesses, and they act different than both of them. I would never do it. It's a horrible space to be in, in my opinion. But because of that, we had these agencies approaching us. We had some well-timed conversations with a friend of mine, one specifically, who reached out and said, "Hey, I'm using this other product. Is Whelm an alternative?" So we talked through all the different things that it did, and it's like, no, Whelm really wouldn't do what you need it to do.
Yeah, kind of, not really. But
yeah.
Maybe it should be.
What if we built something else for you?
Yeah.
And would you pay for that? And he said, well, I wouldn't pay you to build it, but I would pay you once it's built. I would pay for it every single month. And I said, okay, let me go talk to people and see if this is worth building. Talked to my co-founder. We had already kind of seen the writing on the wall. We kind of should probably move on from Whelm. We weren't sure where to go next. So I called 35 different agency owners and just asked them, hey, if there was a product that did this, would that be good for you? They're like, yes or no. The ones that said yes, okay, cool. How much would you pay for it? And on average, it was like $100 to $150. And so we said, okay, if we can get 5 people to commit, then we'll build it. We got 6 within like a few weeks. Yeah. So we started building, and sure enough, of those 6, like, one of them actually onboarded. when it comes time to pay, people suddenly forget how much they cared about it. But yeah, it was enough validation that we needed, and we were already looking for something else, and things kind of coalesced together at the same time. So it worked out to start building Mallow.
So why do you think you can pull this off?
No, I don't. Half the time, I don't think I can pull it off. But also the other half of the time, it's like the numbers make sense. Yeah. Like I put in this much effort, control what I can control. This much effort typically leads to this number of meetings. This number of meetings leads to this number of people who actually make a purchase. And if we can make those people who made a purchase, we can make sure that they stay happy, they don't churn. Okay, then we can actually do it. And looking at the numbers, well, if we can get to this number of customers to do this much in revenue, then yeah, we can just keep on building this thing. Yeah. So it's kind of a pragmatic approach.
I mean, you've got to do what makes sense at the time. But I mean, you mentioned, make sure they don't churn. Is that an issue you guys have had so far? Do you see a high amount of customer churn?
No, not at all.
Okay, that's what I would assume, because the numbers, I'm a numbers guy. I'm also a slightly creative guy, but I think more of a numbers guy. And the numbers make sense. Like, why would we leave this? So I'm curious as to like the satisfaction of your customers.
Yeah, payments is an inherently sticky space because once you get set up and you're running subscriptions somewhere, it's a lift to move away. Yeah. That's good and bad. The good for us is that it's sticky once they're with us. The bad is payments are sticky. So we're pulling them away from their current solution and moving them over to us. Yeah. So, I mean, of all the deals that we have lost, that's probably the biggest one. Is just the pain of switching isn't the pain of switching is so big, and the benefit that we would get isn't big enough to overcome that pain of switching. So they just continue doing business as usual, which is fine. They don't feel the pain strong enough to make a change.
Yeah.
So that's the good part of it. The hard part, and I would say this is unique to our specific industry that we're currently targeting, which is small marketing agencies, not even just general, but specifically small marketing agencies, 1 to maybe 10, 1 to 5 employees. The hard part with them is that they're very easy to spin up and very easy to shut down. And so any churn that we've had, we've had 1 customer churn because they weren't satisfied with the product. That's it, just 1. Do
you mind sharing what the dissatisfaction was? Like, was it legitimate or was
it? It was well, yeah,
kind of misunderstanding.
Yes and no. Like, there was a bug that affected them, and the guy that I was working with directly, he wasn't that bothered by it. But his business partner, who I never had the chance to talk to, was less than enthused about it. And at the end of the day, it was her call because she was the one doing the billing. So there wasn't a personal relationship there that she could come to me and say, hey, we need this fixed.
Yeah.
So for her, all she saw was, I didn't have this problem before. I'm just going to cancel and go to the other one.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to go back to paying more because there's less bugs.
Because they didn't have this one problem that I had. Which is fine. Like, that happens.
Yeah.
It's fine. And the other customers we had at the time, they were fine with it. They're like, yeah, we realize you guys are a new company. This bug's not that big of a deal. We know what we signed on for with a new company, so this is fine.
And they're like, we're a small company too. Like,
Yeah.
we get it.
Yeah. And that's a part of the beauty of being a small business is people are pretty forgiving with that kind of stuff. I don't hold it against them. Like, they just had to make the decision that they felt was best for them to run their business, and that's fine. That's what we all do,
totally
right?
Fine. So only the one that was dissatisfied.
Just the one that was dissatisfied. The others, and there's been like 3 or 4 others, is simply because they shut down their agency because they were a 1-person agency and they got a full-time job offer. And so it was like, well, I'm shutting down my business, so I don't need payments anymore. And so they had to cancel. But I don't really count that as churn.
Yeah.
Like, it's
like technically it is, but
churn.
it's not a churn that you care about as much. It's like known churn.
Yeah.
You know?
We just have to know now. And we weren't prepared for that, but now we are. It's like, we know that 1 out of every 15 customers we bring on is probably going to shut down within a year. And so that we just bake that into the calculation of what we need for growth.
Yeah. It's kind of like in the banking world. You think of a local credit union. They write all these loans, business loans, personal loans, mortgages, whatever. And for every type of loan, there is an assumed amount that are just going to default.
Yeah.
And they know that and they accept that. Like, yeah, there's a baseline of like, yeah, these ones aren't going to work out and that's okay. Anything more than that, or, for different reasons, outside of the normal defaults, like, then we start to get concerned. But like, we do have an acceptable level of churn. They don't call it churn in the banking world, but it's the same thing. Any business has like, well, we know these ones aren't going to pan out. 1 out of 10. Yeah. Whatever the number is.
And it's the dissatisfied ones that we have to really care about tracking.
Yeah.
The ones where they're shutting down, it is still worth tracking because that probably means that maybe we overlooked some red flags during the prospecting phase or something.
Yeah.
We looked too small. We looked for companies that were too small. But yeah, the last few months we haven't had anybody that's been too small drop out. So,
well, yeah, let's dive in a little bit more to your ICP.
Sure.
Your ideal customer profile. And I'm not a marketing person, so that is what ICP means, right?
Yeah. It's
or persona.
Icelandic classic people.
Icelandic classic people. All right.
Yes.
Write that down.
The many people who live in Iceland.
Yeah. So why did you settle on 4 to 10 person marketing agencies specifically?
It was
and not like construction workers, contractors.
Sort of organic, I guess.
Just who you knew already.
Yeah, it's adjacent to the business that we were already in, and so there were some relationships there. On top of that, my background is in marketing. So, I studied digital marketing in college, worked in digital marketing for the first 5 years of my career, however long it was. Worked at a few different agencies.
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew the space, and I had a good idea of like what I was using as a freelancer and what other people were using who were spinning up their own agencies or they were providing services of some kind. And I just knew they were using QuickBooks and Stripe. And because I knew what those fees were, we could go for them and see how they like it.
Yeah.
That's how it started. As I tried talking to larger agencies, it became very apparent that we would have to build out a lot more tech in order to be appealing to them.
And that means more integrations.
more robust reporting, some new features that they're getting with their current providers, that kind of stuff. But these smaller ones, it's a very lean operation. They're using Stripe, but they're using one feature of Stripe, and that's it.
Right.
And so they don't need all the other stuff. So it's been sort of because that's who we knew, but also necessity of that's who we can actually service well at this time.
Yeah.
As we grow, we'll keep adding those other features and keep getting bigger agencies. And we're actually we're in the earliest days of starting to see that. We're seeing some bigger agencies start to have interest in us, and we're beginning some onboarding with a few. And they're probably unique in the way that they bill, and it just happens to work well with what we're providing. But as we grow, we'll add in those features that get us access to larger customers.
Yeah. So let me push back on that just for a second.
Sure.
Not that I'm an expert on anything, but it seems to me that as you try to go after these larger customers who require more customized solutions, would that not complicate things for you? Would you be able to be more successful just going after more small agencies, even though there is more churn? I'm sure it's something that you and Ben
regardless,
discuss.
these small agencies do still need some of these other features.
Yeah.
We've found that a lot of these small agencies that we haven't won their business, they're using Stripe, but they're using 3 or 4 products from Stripe.
So they're also paying for the analytics.
Yeah. The ones that we're winning are the most straightforward business formats. But that's, it's not like we're having 100% hit rate on all these calls. For every 10 calls we do, we actually onboard a customer. So there's another 9 customers there that we're not serving.
Yeah.
Aside from that, a lot of our early customers joined, they came on board knowing like, this will get me by for now. As my agency grows, I'm going to need more. And that's part of it too. It's like we want to grow with our customers too and keep them around. We don't want to lose them just because we're lacking in features.
Yeah.
So, but that said, in the agency world, like a medium-sized agency is like 50 people. It's a small business. It's only the agencies that have 10,000 people. Those are actually enterprise companies, and that's not who we're trying to service. They've got Bill.com, and they've got all the other big payment companies that are providing enterprise solutions. They've got that stuff for them. The biggest we would probably go is like 50. And that's probably stretching it. A lot of times those agencies that have 50 people, they are getting signed up with Bill.com.
Yeah.
Which we're not ever going to try to compete with Bill.com. That we're in different markets. So.
Yeah. I think it goes back to one of the people that I had on the podcast from Nectar HR. I had Nate Tingey, who we talked about a little bit off camera. But they also operate, not in this space, but they operate in a similar way of like, well, we know we're not trying to go against like Awardco is a really big company in Utah that you worked at for a little bit. But Nectar HR is also in the employee benefit space, but they're not going after the enterprises. They're going after the small businesses because it's a completely different customer.
Yep.
And if you specialize on that, it seems like that, the riches are in the niches sort of deal. If you really specialize on who your customer is and just trying to serve them, then like that's how you will be successful.
Yeah. That's the goal.
And speaking to your marketing experience, it seems to me that it's very common for small tech startups, when they initially start up, it's a technical co-founder and the co-founder with a sales or marketing background.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
It's the two things you need. You either got to be selling or building. You can't survive without those two.
You can't build a company off HR.
Yeah, that's right. Or legal.
Or legal.
Yeah, you either have to be building or selling. In the world of AI that is, AI coding and vibe coding that's being introduced and getting better, I don't think the technical co-founder disappears, because there's plenty examples of someone who vibe coded an app and put it on the app store and got 200 downloads and started making money, and then he got hacked and the business shut down. I think the technical co-founder stays relevant forever. But like a non-technical co-founder is not going to make it very far by himself. There's a lot of cases where that is true in reverse. A lot of technical co-founders, they're terrified of selling, or they're terrible at selling, and they need somebody who can sell. So it just seems like it's the reasonable pair, right?
Yeah.
Someone who can sell and someone who can build.
And what are the downsides of, you need a technical co-founder. Someone has to build the thing.
Yeah.
What are the downsides of coming from a marketing background versus accounting or finance or HR or, some other part of business?
Yeah. You have blind spots. I think I run our books, and
is that a good idea?
we're small enough that like I can do it. My sister's a bookkeeper, so luckily I'm like, if there's an issue, I call her and ask for help. But yeah, those are some downsides. You don't know what you don't know. I was talking with a lawyer the other day who's thinking about using Mallow for his law firm. And they're a unique law firm. They don't do billable hours. They just charge a flat monthly rate. And so Mallow's a great fit for what they do.
Yeah.
But even talking with him, because we have a contract signing feature inside of Mallow. You can create a contract, send it to your client, collect their signature, and then jump back into Mallow and send them the invoice. And you can do that all from one place. So I was talking with him about it, and he immediately pointed out 2 or 3 things that we should probably put a disclaimer there, maybe change how this thing is worded. So you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But that aside, none of that matters if you don't have any customers. You could be an accountant and a lawyer and have your books squared away and have legal all squared away. But if you don't go sell anything, what's the point? So the downside is that kind of stuff is a mess, but the positive is there's a reason for it to be a mess.
Yeah. Like at least you have customers.
Right. At least there's something that you're building.
So what are the, talk me through some of the growing pains. Like you started from nothing just over a year ago in April last year, right?
Yeah, that's when we started to build it. We launched it in October of 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as like selling it, you started in October.
Yeah.
So what have been the growing pains then from like October to now? We're filming in kind of mid-June.
Yeah. November through December was absolutely brutal. Like mind-bogglingly brutal.
In what way?
We learned that our customer base is just kind of checked out that time of year. A lot of them are self-employed. So, they made their money for 11 months of the year. And then by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, like they take a whole month off and they come back to work on the new year, after the new year. And they can do that because they're a team of 1 or 2. And it's like, they, in the background, they're running the promotions for their clients for the holidays. And that's all they're thinking about.
Right.
It's that and the holidays. So for us, we weren't prepared for that. We didn't know what would happen. I've never done B2B sales. I'm in marketing. And so I didn't know what that kind of sales process would look like, which has been its own beast of a problem of like, how do I sell something? How do I sell a software? So learning that on the fly, but coming from a Wordco, which is selling into enterprises, enterprise companies have end of year budget that they're trying to hit. So for them, it's like, well, December's the biggest month of the year. They're making the most sales that time of year. So that's what I was expecting. I didn't realize that these small businesses, self-employed, they behave the opposite. So November, December was brutal, and we were questioning everything. We launched in October, got a couple of sales, and then nothing through November, December. And we're thinking, oh no, did we just invest all this time and not really any money? We didn't have to put any money in it to build it, but a bunch of time for nothing. And then luckily January rolled around and, 6 sales back to back and kind of confirmed like, okay, we actually are onto something here.
Like, oh, this could work still.
Yes. And at the time we were charging $50 per account instead of $100. So 2 customers at 50, we were making $100, and it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Getting through the end of the year, launching a couple features, changing our pricing because we had the new features to justify the $100 a month. And then bringing on a bunch of customers back to back like that gave us the momentum to keep going. Aside from that, like learning how to do sales has been very good, very helpful. I'm sure it'll be a helpful skill the rest of my life. But it's been difficult because I hadn't done sales previously, so I didn't have a training in like, this is how you prospect. This is how you run a discovery call. This is how you talk about pricing. This is how you answer questions or talk about objections. I don't have any of that classic sales training. On one hand, that's good because I really don't come across on those calls as like a sales guy.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm just a guy.
I'm just a founder talking with you to see if this is good for your business. And if it's not, cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit is I don't have commission breath, but the downside of that is a lot of the time I just had no clue what I was doing, figuring it out as we went. So that's tough.
Yeah. And I do want to talk more on like learning to sell and like what that's looked like. And even your LinkedIn post today about, follow-up calls.
Yeah.
But first you mentioned pricing, that you guys were at first charging $50 a month. And then at this point you've jumped it up to 100. What was the conversation that led to that?
Yeah, we knew that we were going to raise the price. But when we launched, we didn't have the contracts feature yet. It was only payments. And they worked mostly, but not all the time. There was a lot of bugs. So we knew we couldn't charge the full price. So we told people going in, one day this is probably going to be around $150. We're starting off at a third of that price because we know that we've got some issues that we got to work through.
Yeah.
But we had kind of told them by the end of the year, it's probably going to get closer to 100. Cause that's when we were going to launch the e-signature and the contract tool. So sure enough, that was kind of the timing. Right before the end of the year is when we launched that feature. And so coinciding, we bumped the price up to $100.
And how did your customers feel about that when you told them like, hey, just so you know, it's $50 now, but it will probably go to $100 within the next couple months?
They were totally reasonable about it because one, we had prepped them for it. We told them ahead of time, this is a short-term price. But secondly, we made sure that the numbers worked for them. How much are you doing in revenue? Who are you currently processing fees through? How much are you going to save by switching to Mallow? And as long as that's over $100, we don't feel bad at all about charging $100.
Yeah.
So, and they were good about it. So yeah, it really wasn't like a big deal. It was pretty easy.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't think it's, if you're saving thousands of dollars, I wouldn't think 50 to 100. Sorry guys. Like, I wouldn't think it's going to be a big deal, especially when you're getting more value. Like, well, now we have the e-signatures and more features to come, which will be followed with more price increases, but more value. Yeah.
And even that, I think where we're currently at, we just might keep this $100 plan for the long run. And as we build new features that they cost more to maintain, it's harder for us to build. We may put those on a different plan.
Yeah.
But all of the features that our customers currently have at $100, they'll continue to have for $100. So the next price increase won't be an increase. It'll just be a new plan. And we'll keep the $100 plan and also offer like a $200 plan.
Yeah. I mean, in this freemium world, is that even an option for Mallow to bring in customers at like a free level? Does that make sense at all?
No, at least not right now. At a certain scale, it might. But for now, no.
Yeah. I mean, with how much they save, you could kind of say like, what, it's still freemium, $100 versus
You get
$5,000 back.
What other software are you using that? Sure, all the software you're using is saving you time, and therefore it's saving you money. But what other software is literally saving you dollars? Like the more you use it, the more you are saving. There's not very many of us. So we have a unique pricing structure there where freemium isn't really necessary. That said, there's a unique benefit to getting a small agency when they are very small. Like they're doing a couple $1,000s in revenue and that's it. They're just starting, and getting them on the Mallow train that early so that as they grow, they don't have to make a transition out of Stripe over to Mallow.
Yeah, like you said, it's sticky. The payments world. Insurance is, I work in insurance, and I'm a product manager at a small tech insurance company. And insurance is also sticky.
Yeah.
People typically they just get insurance and they just renew. So it's a nice business to be in. Payments is pretty similar.
Yeah, similar in that way for sure. And so I think there's a use case for freemium at a certain point. But knowing what we know, having done freemium previously, it's like, at a certain scale, then yeah, sure, we can think about doing that.
Yeah. But right now, $100 is the freemium tier.
$100 is the low cost. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your, I thought your LinkedIn post was so interesting today. So I'll post a screenshot for the video viewers on YouTube. But talk me through the post about follow-up call. And now we've got more people in it and suddenly we got weird vibes.
Yeah. This has happened a few times to me. And this is why I posted it, because I genuinely don't know if I'm just doing something wrong and it's causing this. Because again, I don't have this traditional sales background. But the post was like, hey, if you're in sales, maybe teach me something here. I have noticed. So to give some context, when I'm talking with a prospect, it's typically what the salespeople call a one-call close. Meaning we meet up for a discovery call, we chit chat, we get to know each other, we dive into product, we talk through it, see if it's actually a good fit for them. If it is a good fit for them, I give them a quick demo, and the demo doesn't take long because the product is very simple and easy to use. Yeah. So I give them a quick demo, and if they like it, they say, cool, send me the onboarding information and let's get started. If it's clearly not a fit, cool, that's the end of it. That we know within 10 minutes whether or not this is a good fit to move forward. So that's the context, is I typically do only one sales call. So I don't have a lot of practice with a follow-up call.
And is that a rigid thing that you establish? Like, hey, I'm only going to do one sales call, or that's just the way it typically goes?
It's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah. And I had talked with some salespeople 6 or 7 months ago and told them what my pricing was. And I was soliciting help because I didn't know how to do sales. And more than 2 or 3 people, I think 4 or 5 people told me, you should be doing one call closes. With how easy your product is to use and the price point being so low, you should know in one call whether or not they're going to make a purchase.
Yeah, there's so few variables to consider.
Yeah,
as the customer.
And so it's not like I was intentionally trying to follow that advice. It just became very obvious that they knew what they were talking about. You shouldn't have to do 3 calls to sell somebody a $100 monthly price. That's for 3 calls is for closing $1,000 a month, or more than 1,000. So, anyways, that's the long story to say I don't have a lot of experience with secondary calls or follow-up calls, especially going from I met with one stakeholder and they loved it, but they can't make the decision on their own because they've got business partners. So now we need to do a follow-up call with the business partners to make sure they're on board before we're ready to move forward. So I've had a handful of these. A couple of times they've gone great. The follow-up call went super well. They were super friendly. We chatted. We got to know each other. We talked about the product, and everyone signed off on it, and we onboarded them.
Yeah. You already had a guy on the inside advocating for you.
Yes.
Went well.
Other times, and this happened this week, which is why I made the post about it today, but other times the first call went great, like home run. It's a great call. And you end the call feeling like, dang, that guy feels like my buddy. Like that was just a really good call.
Yeah, like maybe we'll get lunch this week.
I would hang out with that guy. Yeah. And so you think that the follow-up call is going to go really well. And then you get on the follow-up call and there's, you know, the CEO and the CRO is on the call, or whoever the other people are. And their arms are crossed. They're really closed off. They've got they're mean mugging. Like it's just this weird kind of, what did I step into? Like, are these guys, do they think I'm trying to trick them? Or are they mad about something? Or is this just how, like, this is their personality? And that's easy to approach. It's not, but it's simple to approach that in a one-on-one setting. You can kind of match and mirror what they're doing and make them feel comfortable. You can't really do that in a group call. If there's one person who's really nice, one person who's like not really paying attention, and another person who's actively disengaging and coming across as kind of rude, it's hard to win over the crowd in that scenario. So, and typically that one person who's disengaging and coming across as aggressive, it feels like they're trying to trick you, trying to get you to say something that enables them to write you off.
Yeah.
So it just gives the call a totally different tone.
Like they've already made the decision in their minds.
They're
just wanting you to validate it.
Yeah. And that's a weird, I don't want to be in that scenario. I don't want to sell you something you don't want. My goal is to make sure that this is actually beneficial for you, but you're making it seem like I'm the villain. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. So,
yeah. I mean, for a lot of reasons, I wish I had more viewers on this podcast, but for this reason right now, I wish we had more. That way somebody was in sales and could comment on this and like, oh, here's why that happens. Like, consider it your sales churn of like, or the bad debt that you just write off as a bank. We're like, yeah, somebody's always going to be grumpy on a call.
Yeah. And
is that the case? Or like
maybe that's what it is. Or like there's actually techniques to overcome that and win them over. And
which is surely the case, right? Like you're not sales trained, and like think about it statistically. Like what are the odds that I, as of right now, am perfect at selling this? Pretty low.
Yeah. Next to zero. Yeah.
So like, I'm sure there's an element of, well, I could have been better at that, but it sounds like with this example specifically, somebody came into the call like already determined to not purchase and like they didn't want to be on the call or something.
Yeah. Or that maybe there were some conversations before the call and they were advocating for not doing it. And so they're determined to like prove that they were right.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's why I made the post. Like, hey, if you've been in this scenario, throw me a bone here. Tell me what I can learn. What am I doing wrong? There were a few responses before I came over here for the podcast, and some of them were already super helpful. So they had a couple of ideas of maybe here's how you cut the tension or call out the tension. So yeah, different strategies I can try. The other hard part is because I do so few follow-up group calls, I don't remember every call, even when I'm doing single call closes. I don't remember all the nitty-gritty details. You just kind of like, you start to build a habit on the way you pitch things. After seeing a certain amount of people respond well to the pitch, you kind of go back and that becomes your habit of how you do it, because you know it clicks when you say it a certain way. And I don't do enough group calls to build those habits, to understand the nuance of, if I say it this way, they respond poorly. If I say it this way, it clicks and it makes sense for them. And so I don't have this like repertoire that I can pull from. So,
yeah, I think it's tough because like I had some ideas of like, well, maybe because one of the things you said is, well, it's kind of a long post, so I'm not going to look for the certain line, but it was like, did I not prep my hero enough? Like the first person you talked to, and my
champion.
My champion. I've done a little bit of sales, more in like the financial planning, wealth management space.
Yeah.
but it was at a very salesy type firm. And kind of same situation of like, you talk to a husband, like, well, I need to talk to my wife. Let's do this again, but with my wife. And when I would go into those follow-up calls of like, well, now I'm talking to the husband and my wife, he's already prepped her. I completely disregarded the fact that he has prepped her because I don't know like what he said or how it was received. So in my mind, like this is another first discovery call, like new group. It's call number 1, not call number 2. That's kind of how I treated it. But obviously I didn't crush it because I'd still be doing it if I loved it and I did really well, you know. Really, I did fine enough, but I just didn't love the company that I was at. And I think the industry has some inherent flaws in compensation structure, but that's another topic that maybe I'll talk to somebody else on for the podcast. But anyway, like the point that I'm trying to make is that I would treat that outsider looking in as like, this is a brand new thing where I'm pitching again, not following up, not, hey, champion, like, so you talk to the group, like you got to have some introductions, but brand new call to me in my mind.
And to your point, the call this week that went poorly in the group call, the first stakeholder I had spoken to, he didn't prep the rest of the group. Like they came in kind of cold.
And did you know that?
No.
Or did you have some assumptions about like, oh, he probably told everybody?
When we met, I just, asked everyone at the top of the call, hey, has so-and-so told you guys about what we do? And both of them were like, no. We know that there's payments involved. That's all we know.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we got to go back to square one and talk through stuff.
Yeah.
But even at that point, from the very beginning, it's like they didn't want to hear it. So I don't know.
It's tough, right? Like there is some element, like at my previous job, there was somebody, won't name names, but there was somebody who like anytime this person was on a call, they were always multitasking, looking at some other screen, like never engaged, like with, they wouldn't be looking at the camera. They'd be looking over here, then looking over there, and then texting, and like obviously typing, like you're responding to some other chat while we're like, it's a pretty small call. It's not like some company wide, 200 person call where you can just do whatever you want. But it's like there's three of us on this call, and you are not engaged here. Yeah. And they would also do that in like one-on-ones too, like while you're talking.
Interesting. Okay. And so that's like a social anxiety thing.
It would
maybe?
Drive me nuts.
I don't know.
It just seemed like a lack of respect thing.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm just not as compassionate, but that's how it came off to me. Okay. And so in my mind, there are just people who like they're not going to be great on a call. Yeah. And maybe that's what it was, but I don't know.
Yeah. I struggle. Another part that I struggle with is, do I want to devote some time to learning how to overcome that? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to spend that time prospecting for more perfect fits? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some people who are dedicated to the craft of sales. Mm-hmm. That's not the game I'm in. Yeah. Like I'm a founder, so I'm doing founder-led sales because being a founder necessitates selling. But like my passion is not selling. I did half of one summer in summer sales because I hated it that much.
Yeah, said half of. I'm like, okay, so you did not like it.
I went through 6 weeks and I was like, I'm out. I'm going to go back to my minimum wage job and suffer there because I'd hate it less than this. And so there's another part of me too there where it's like I can be really tenacious. I'm a very I don't give up easily. I'm very hard-headed in a lot of things. But especially when it comes to like trying to breathe life into a thing that didn't exist before, I can be really hard-headed and keep going and keep going and keep going. Mm-hmm. And I would almost rather just keep prospecting to try to find the right customer than try to win over somebody who doesn't want to be my customer. Yeah. And so that's another way that I've thought about approaching it, which is like, if they're just not in the mood, then don't fight it. Don't, if you do, you come off as needy or like you really,
then you're too salesy.
You really got to have this sale. Like, no, we're going to be okay if they don't buy. So just move on and try to find a better prospect.
Yeah. It's just the constant battle of being in sales. Like, do you cast a wider net or do you cast a better net? Yeah. But you don't have time to do both. Yeah. You just got to figure that out. But
At the end of the day, my focus is on just finding new customers. So it is a battle that's worth pursuing to an extent.
So priority number one for Chipper, finding new customers.
Uh-huh.
So if you're listening to this podcast, reach out to Chipper if you want to be a customer.
In tandem with supporting our current customers, because we don't want to lose them in the name of finding more customers.
Grow customer base, including existing customers.
Yes.
Provide great service to all
Make
customers.
sure that they really like this. Yeah.
So let's say that it's in the budget now. You've grown the company enough. You've got the revenue to support hiring somebody, assuming you get to that point, and you want to get to that point.
Yeah.
Who would that be? What does that role look like?
I think hire number one would be customer support. Take some of that load off of my shoulders and off of Ben's shoulders, and get someone just strictly dedicated to making sure our customers are happy and getting answers to questions and that kind of stuff. So that me and Ben can continue to focus on the things that we're doing, building and selling.
How much time are the two of you spending with customer support?
I take most of it. So right now it's very little, but I think at a certain number, 70 to 100 customers, I feel like we could probably guarantee a tenth of the customers are going to have a question on any given week.
Yeah. Is this a bug or am I using it wrong?
Yeah.
Or where can I find this?
Where do I download this report? Yeah, that kind of stuff. My customer needs a refund. What do I do? Mm-hmm. So if there's 10 people reaching out every week with an issue at 100 customers, that might take me a few hours of my week, or it might take me 10 hours of my week. I just don't really know. Right now, it's low enough that it's like a negligible amount. I spend a couple of hours a week on customer support, and that's fine. That's part of the role. Mm-hmm. But if it gets to like 10 or 15 or 20, I can't sustain that and be doing sales. So that would be the first hires. Maybe we get a VA who's got great English and well educated and great people skills. The perfect person probably is in the Philippines, and we can probably pay them $2,000 or $3,000 a month to give us outstanding customer support. That is probably better than we could get in the US.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first hire.
Yeah. When I was at Morgan Stanley a couple of years ago, I was there for 2 years, and half of our team worked in the Philippines, and they were better than almost everybody in the
awesome.
US team. Yeah. I don't know what they're being paid. I hope they're being paid great. But I assume that Morgan Stanley was hiring, Filipino workers for a reason, and that was probably labor cost.
Yeah.
But as far as the quality of their work, it was very high. Their English was generally great. Mm-hmm. A little bit of a time difference you got to figure out, but outside of that, they were great to work with.
I've worked in a couple of different companies now that had Filipino VAs, and totally competent. Well educated. Half of them were educated, they went to college in the US.
They went to a better school than I did.
Yeah, I went to a open enrollment university, 2 different open enrollment universities. And they went to USC. They're probably more educated than I am by educational standards. And they've got perfect English, hardly an accent, if any. And the people in the Philippines are just so nice. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to give amazing customer service, way better than I can, at scale anyways. I'm giving great customer service because I care so much because it's my company. At scale, I'm not going to be able to replicate that. So I think that's probably where the first hire would be.
So probably the most bang for your buck, Filipino VA.
Yeah.
And then would you consider hiring a salesperson who is already classically trained or whatever?
We would have to have an enterprise plan to justify it. You just can't justify a salesperson slinging $100 plans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Their commission on it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
And
you'd have to have 100%, 300% commission for it to feel worth it to them.
And the only way we could do that is if we were venture backed, where we just had $10 million to burn on growth. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could justify some sales reps at that point, but that's not ever in our future plan. We don't want to do that. And so we would rather grow sustainably, maybe one day if there's enough plan, maybe we launch a $500 plan at some point. Okay, then maybe we could justify, one person who's dedicated to sales, and maybe their role is just SDR, and they send the leads to me, and I act as the AE, but maybe not.
And for those not in the tech sales world, SDR, AE.
Yeah, SDR, sales development representative, also called BDRs, sometimes business development representative. They're the people doing cold calls, cold emails. They're generating appointments for the AE, which means account executive. I don't know who came up with those terms. I think account executive is a dumb name. They should just be called sales executive.
Yeah.
But because they're not managing your account after you're sold, that goes to CSMs, customer support managers. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, my mom watches this, so I just want to let her know.
What's her name?
Codile.
Codile?
Yeah.
Codile, that one's for you.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the only Codile that you'll ever even hear of.
I've never heard that name in my life.
I've never heard it.
Most people have never met a chipper before. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, as far as a name, I've heard people called chipper, but not as a name.
Yeah, that's true. Like they're a very chipper person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, venture. You don't plan on taking any venture capital, which is contrary to a lot of the entrepreneurs and actual entrepreneurs here in Utah, especially.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think venture has a place. Company down the road from here, Neighbor's building the two-sided marketplace for storage. So you can go store your stuff in somebody's garage and pay them $50 a month instead of paying $100 at a storage facility. Very cool business. But you need insane amounts of money to build a double-sided marketplace because you're building two different businesses. It just requires a ton of money. What we're doing does not require hardly any money. Like our fixed monthly expenses is like $100. So what are we going to spend venture money on? Sure, we could go hire a bunch of BDRs and a bunch of AEs to do what? Lay them off 2 years from now? That's not ethical. And it's not sustainable either. And we would have to give up how much of our company to do it.
Yeah.
So I have to give up a bunch of my company. I have to follow the rules that the VC sets for me. I don't get to follow my own rules anymore, which is why I started a company. And I know ahead of time that our growth is not sustainable. We are not profitable. And in order to get profitable, we would have to fire all these people we just hired. I can't in good conscience go do that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit our business model. I used to work at a Wardco. They just raised $165 million.
Good for them.
An insane Series B, just a crazy number.
Yeah.
And before that, they raised $65 million Series A. But all of that was after like 5 or 10 years of bootstrapping. They built it to a place where it was actually worth that much money. And they had a plan. If we raise this much money, we can put into this much growth and we will get X result out of it. Venture fits there. It's a good fit there. It's just not a good fit for what we're doing. And especially at the size that we're in, the size of our market, the price of our product, what we can reasonably charge for our product in the future. Like all of those things just don't add up to a $1 billion company. And that's what VCs have to have. You have to do a whole dog and pony show to get a VC to pay attention to you. And you have to lie through your teeth. We're going to be a $1 billion company. No, you're not. 9 out of 10 companies are not. That's just probably more than 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
95 out of 100 are not going to be in any given fund. They're not going to work out to be a $1 billion business. And they lied their way. They knew, or maybe they were, crazy and they thought they very well could be a $1 billion company. But
I mean, delusion is definitely an attribute that a lot of founders have.
Yeah, that's true.
You almost need delusion.
You do have to have some delusion, yes. But I think a lot of them know we're not going to be a $1 billion company. I'm doing this for the lifestyle of it. I'm doing it for the hype, or I'm doing it because I thought I had to, or because I thought this was how you build a company. we just don't really buy into it.
Yeah.
So, and we are unique in that my co-founder worked for not only a venture-backed company previously, but they were selling to venture capital companies. So he was in that ecosystem, and he saw how negatively it affected his startup that he was working for when they took on funding. For me, in college, I took some venture capital courses. And so at Utah Valley University, there's a venture capital fund run by students. When I was there, they had just launched it. They had announced it, but there was nobody in it yet. They hadn't actually brought in the students.
And this is the Wolverine Fund, right?
The Wolverine Fund. Great opportunity for students.
Yeah, super cool.
I was in that first cohort that took the class. You had to pass the class in order to apply for the fund, and then you had to get accepted to be in that Wolverine Fund. So I took the class. A lot of it went over my head. I don't think I did that well, but I did get accepted to be in the fund. I didn't end up doing it because I was also the president of the entrepreneurship club, and I couldn't do both, and so I chose the entrepreneurship club. So I didn't actually join the Wolverine Fund, but that class gave me some perspective of they had actual venture capitalists come and speak to us. They had fund managers come speak to us. We got to talk to a lot of people that normal students don't usually get to talk to.
Yeah.
And it gave me a lot of perspective of okay, so if I wanted to be venture backed, here's what they're looking for. I don't want to build that kind of business. I don't want to be a $1 billion founder because that's not the lifestyle that I want. I don't want to work 80-hour weeks for 20 years. 15 years, 10 years.
For maybe a bigger check,
but
also not definitely a bigger check.
Yeah.
When you exit.
For a smaller share of sure, it's a bigger pie, but I got a small share of it and I don't really control my destiny. Again, there's a place for it. There's a lot of reasons to do it, but those reasons are the exception to the rule. They shouldn't be the rule. And for a long time, they have been the rule.
Especially here in Utah.
Especially in Silicon Valley, which then bled over to Silicon Slopes. So anyways, it's a tangent, but I feel passionately that more people should just go sell a thing first. Go sell it, and then if it works, people want it, build it, and then sell it, and actually take the money that time. And then if it keeps working, keep doing that as long as you can. And then if it's oh yeah, we actually have a path to $1 billion, sweet, go raise some money, get there. You'll learn along the way whether or not you actually have the path.
Yeah, there's so much glamorization about taking on funding that most people shouldn't, I think. It's one thing to take on some seed capital and we'll give you, as the founder, I take on some seed capital and I give an investor a return on their money. Totally fine. Definitely a place for that. That's just debt.
Yeah. And for a lot of businesses, how do I say that? For a much higher ratio of businesses, that is reasonable. VC's not, but an angel round or maybe a small seed round is reasonable.
Yeah.
And we may probably do that one day. There's a fantastic podcast called Practical Founders. And Greg, the host, he has lived both lives. He's been in the VC world as a founder. He's been in the bootstrap world as a founder. And he talks about that a lot. You don't have to go raise big funding to build the business of your dreams or to build a high impact business or to get super rich. That, again, it's not that it's not the only path. It's that should be the smallest number of people choose that path.
Yeah.
More people should be choosing bootstrapping. And I include a small angel round in the bootstrapping mentality because it is very similar.
I mean, a small angel round is just debt. It's from people rather than an institution like a bank, but
you are trading equity, right? But you treat it a little more of the way that you would treat debt. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should clarify. An angel investor could be trading for equity, or it could just be initial seed funding in the form of debt. That term can mean both.
Yeah.
And either are fine, but to take on a whole VC round of funding is a whole nother game that I don't think most people should be wanting.
Yeah, it should be a little less glamorized than it is, or even not, because it's a feat to raise money. Like, it's a full-time job to go raise some money,
and
it is something worth celebrating to a degree. But
it does say that somebody else thinks your business could be worth $1 billion, which is cool.
And there's a guy that, you know, he was local to Utah. I think he lives in Arizona now. His name is Lee. Lee is the founder of a company called Ruck. Ruck has been VC backed for a long time, but they started out with just Lee teaching himself how to code and building this product, getting a little semblance of product market fit. But he's building, again, this is a two-sided marketplace, so he needs VC funding, so he went and raised the funding. That should be celebrated. Lee should be celebrated for what he's done because it fits. It fits the business model. It fits the market size. It fits what they're doing. There is a necessity for the VC funds. Somebody building an AI wrapper that does, you know, it's a GPT wrapper that does AI phone call answering. What do you need VC funds for?
Yeah.
Go just sell it. Within 2 customers, you're profitable. So go sell 200 and you'll be way more profitable. And then at that point, if you need VC to go from 200 to 20,000, okay, there's a use case for VC at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be so celebrated that they took money too early.
No, I totally agree. And as far as like, you know, we've got this whole rant about like VC at all, VC too early. You're running a very lean operation.
Yeah.
And what do outsiders looking in not understand about running a lean startup of 2 people?
There's no disposable income. Every dollar is put to use. That's not to say we don't have like savings that we're building. Our bank account continues to grow, but we're being very strategic about every dollar that we spend. Every dollar is tracked. We don't take paychecks yet. So it's a very unsexy way to build a business. And personally, we take some pride in that. Like, we're doing it what is right now the harder way, so that in the future we get to have the easier path. Which, when you take VC funding, it's reversed. It's easier now, but it's a lot harder in the future.
Yeah. Like, you have to build $1 billion company.
You have to be $1 billion business.
Or now you get a paycheck of 0.
Yeah.
Or next to 0.
Yeah. So it's just you get opposite results. But there's no fanfare. It's tough sledding. And you kind of have to love it to do it. And luckily for us, we love it. So
yeah,
it's not for everybody.
And tactically, what do your days look like? Like, this is your only thing right now?
Yes, my only thing. My day looks like taking discovery calls, and reaching out to prospects and posting memes on LinkedIn. That's kind of it. That's kind of what I spend all my day doing. Because of my background in marketing and design, I am our product designer. So if there's a new feature we're working on, I'm working with Ben and I'm designing what it's going to look like. And, you know, I naturally write well. Just sort of, my brain is wired that way. So I'll design a product and I'll write, you know, what the words are going to say. This button needs to say this. We should phrase it this way so that it's easy to use. So I'm doing that kind of stuff, but that's probably 10 hours of my week to do that kind of stuff. The rest of it is spent on what equates to sales and marketing.
Yeah. Sales operations, the operations of selling it.
Yeah. Yep.
And your leads mostly come through LinkedIn? Are you guys running ads? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's almost 100% through LinkedIn. Through my personal LinkedIn. It's crazy. I joke that I probably spend too much time on there, but I justify it because that's where all of our leads come from. I put a lot of effort into growing my LinkedIn account before I ever had a business to sell things.
Yeah.
Because I knew one day I would. And I didn't, it's not like I just kind of like stumbled into 17,000 followers. It was intentional. Like 3-4 years ago, I had 900 followers. And so I was like, I know one day in 5 years from now, where do I see myself? I see myself running my own business, probably a dad. Who knows where we're going to be living? But those were like the two things that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I'm running my own. It's been 4 years. I'm running my own business. We have a kid, and we don't know where we're going to live next year. We keep bouncing around.
Yeah.
So those things kind of came true, but because I knew I was going to be running a business, I was like, I need to have some kind of platform to sell.
Yeah. I think of it like a digital savings account.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, let's say you don't know whether you are going to start a business, you don't know whether you're going to purchase a house or where that house might be. You just know you should be saving, so you start saving. And like, I don't know what this money is going to be for, but I know it's going to be for something.
Yeah.
So you just save money, you set it aside.
And I chose LinkedIn because I like it.
Yeah, I've kind of fell in love with LinkedIn this year. Like
this year for you? Nice.
At the start of the year, I had 500 something connections. And now I'm at like 1,900 followers.
Yeah.
I started posting regularly in like March. So, in just a couple months, I've added over 1,000 new connections and followers, and it's just been crazy. Like the community that you can build of people who you've never met in person, for like us, until today, we hadn't met in person yet, but we'd interacted on LinkedIn here and there. And I think that's so cool. Like, LinkedIn is generally a supportive place.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes to a fault. You can just get into these like echo chambers of like people saying, "Oh yeah, that's so awesome. This is so great. Congrats." Yeah. It's like, that kind of sucked actually, but it feels weird to say that on LinkedIn.
Wasted compute power for that, but yeah great.
But I think of LinkedIn in the same way. Like, before I launched this podcast, I just started posting regularly on LinkedIn. And kind of the framework the approach that I took to that is like if I were talking to future me, what would future me say to me right now? Like, what sort of advice or like just truth or facts or insights would he say to me? And then I just post that. So I try to place myself in the wiser shoes that I assume I have in the future.
Yeah.
Like, what would that guy say to me right now? Like, I'll just post that. And people liked it a little bit.
Yeah.
And what they really like is food, apparently. So now
people love to talk. Some of my the strongest posts are when I talk about pizza. Yeah. And it's just people go gangbusters for food.
I'm talking food once a week now. It's like legitimately part of my LinkedIn
growth strategy.
Yeah, it really is.
No, yeah. I could have put that effort into growing on Instagram or Twitter or name the platform. I put the time into LinkedIn because it lacked the negativity that the other platforms inherently boosted.
Yeah. Like Twitter is mostly negativity.
If you're a nut job on Twitter, you're going to get a lot more views.
Yeah.
Right? And there are nut jobs on LinkedIn who are getting a lot of views, but their version of being a nut job is like, this is my private jet and I wear these $6,000 t-shirts made from the butt hairs of yaks. Like, they're flexing, right? But I'm like, I can deal with the flex and I can block that and curate my feed. Mm-hmm. And the rest of LinkedIn is, for the most part, genuine and authentically supportive and excited for other people who are progressing. Like, that's what drew me to it.
Yeah.
It was just a healthier version of social media for me. And so that's why I decided to put my time into it.
Yeah. It is lacking in some features from a creator standpoint.
For sure. Yeah.
Analytics are terrible. And I learned today that you can't edit an image after you post it.
Oh, interesting.
You have to just delete the post.
Huh.
So if you post any text accompanied by an image and you think, oh, I'll just switch out the image. Nope. You got to delete the post and post it again.
Never tried that, but good to know.
Yeah. So now you know. So it's not perfect, but I do think it's a great place to build communities. Well, and
it's owned by Microsoft. And like, if you want a terrible user experience, have Microsoft build it. Like, they do the freaking darndest things. But the community is what's hard to replace. And so I just like the community of LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, what do you see next for Mallow and for you? What's on the horizon?
Just focused on growth. I'd be lying if I said I had like this vision of what the next 5 or 10 years look like.
Mm-hmm.
I have what I think is difficult but reasonable goals.
Yeah.
For how the next 5 years play out. But what does that actually look like in practice? I don't know. My wife, she loves to be goal oriented in the sense of like she likes to set short-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
And she also likes to set long-term goals and medium length goals. I'm kind of the opposite. I only set long-term goals, and they're not really like smart goals, like how you're taught to do as a senior in high school. They're just like, I want to have time freedom.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing today to get me there? And that's the focus.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't have time freedom. I have the opposite of time freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. I
work 60 hours a week trying to sell software and build a customer that build a software that customers find delightful. And I'm happy to do that because my goal is that in 10 years from now, I have freedom over my time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my own goal.
Yeah.
My co-founder and I are very aligned on that. That's what we want to build. And that's part of why we don't want to go the VC route, because it's a 10 to 20 year time horizon and there is no freedom until you exit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big if you exit. So,
and at some point it's probably not 60 to 80 hour work weeks.
Right.
Maybe you can scale back to 40, maybe even 30.
As we get more customers, we bring on someone for support. We bring on another person for support after we're at, 200 or 300 customers. I replicate my sales efforts and this is one where, again, if we're talking about VAs, a VA can do this. They're doing all that cold outreach for me, and they're acting as an SDR basically and sending me the warm leads. I can do that without having to sacrifice 60 hours a week. I can scale back my efforts.
Yeah.
So buying back our time, having a profitable business that is healthy. In fact, let me tell you this. The reason Mallow is named Mallow.
I probably should have asked already.
I mean, most people don't, because most people are like, yeah, it sounds like a tech name, which is, that's part of it. But there is a wildflower that found throughout the US and throughout the world called the mallow. And they have different names in every region. So, in fact, marshmallows, like our logo, an actual marshmallow is named after the mallows that were found in the marshes in the South.
Oh.
They're white, and marshmallows resembled them. And that's why they called them marshmallows. So there's all these different types of mallows in the world. In St. George, Utah, the native species of the mallow flower is called the globe mallow. The globe mallow is extremely hardy. It can, like, St. George is a desert. It's in the same desert as Las Vegas. So it's super hot. There's not a lot of like deeply nutritious soil. There's a lot of sand.
Not a lot of water.
And the summers are brutal. The winters are gorgeous, but like the summers are brutal. And so this mallow flower, like, it can survive years of drought. And then it gets like a really good rainfall and some good weather, and it blooms into this beautiful flower. And then it can go another year of drought. Like it's just super hardy.
Just so resilient.
It's so resilient, and it's really pretty. Our focus when we started building Mallow, and part of our criteria when we were having these conversations, was we want to build a business that can survive drought. It can walk through the desert like a camel. It can drink the water now and get through the desert and be able to survive. So that's why it's called Mallow. It's like, marshmallows are fun, but we're not named after a marshmallow. We're named after this flower species that can survive anything. And that's our goal. That's why we want to build that kind of business. Or that's the kind of business we want to build, which is why we're named that, which is why we don't care to build $1 billion VC-backed business, because let's face it, 99% of the time, they just die.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of similarly, I'm not interested in building this podcast into a. Not that there's any I think that are worth $1 billion. Maybe Rogan. I don't know. But
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the Kelsey brothers, theirs got sold for like 100 million or something.
yeah, I'm
And that's
not
like an
interested
insane number.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not trying to build it into that. Just something that allows me to connect with really cool people. Eventually pays the bills plus a little extra.
yeah.
Can pay, some salaries, some very well paid employees to help run the business, and free up time. And for right now, it sounds like both of us are in the Rocky cutscene lonely chapter, that everyone talks about, like where you have none of that.
Yeah. we have this goal of what it will be in the future, but it requires that you scale a 90-degree cliff to get there, and we're currently scaling.
And there's no
support ropes.
I think the cliff is a great analogy because you're scaling a 90-degree cliff. You're going all the way up, and you cannot see over the cliff until you are at the top of it. There's no like gradual, I can see a little bit more. Like, nope.
It's true.
It is, you are scaling the cliff. And until you have scaled it, you have not scaled it.
Yep.
You don't get the payoff of the view or anything.
If you're 3/4 the way there, you can still fall.
Yeah. You can still fall, and you never got to see over the cliff.
And you're free soloing this thing. So
yeah. That is how it feels sometimes.
yeah.
I think Mallow is, much bigger, but I feel similar to what you've said, late nights, weekends, extra hours, delusion, I get that.
Yes. And it's fun though.
Yeah. But
same with like some people like climbing cliffs. I don't, but some people do. So.
But you just feel like you have to,
Yeah.
Well, Chipper, this has been awesome. If people want to reach out to you, I think I know what you're going to say, but what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only person on LinkedIn named Chipper Whatcott. I'm probably one of a handful that is named Chipper anyways, and one of only a handful of Whatcotts. So easy to find me. Find me there, or follow me on Twitter. That's where I talk about sports and urbanism.
All right. LinkedIn, at least in bio, maybe Twitter, if I can find that too.
Yeah. At Chipper Whatcott. That's all I am.
Awesome. Well, Chipper, thanks for coming on.
Okay. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.